Well, ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome. So nice to see you all here. I gather some of you have had a rather adventurous journey this morning. Some are still stranded on the Northern Line in various places, so people will trickle in as we go. But it is great to have you all here. We've got a full house, actually, when they all arrive, and a full schedule over the next couple of days. Now, I'm going to digress for 1 minute. I'm probably the only person in the room who cares about this, but if you saw in the paper this morning, the Prime Minister with President Obama at a basketball game last night. This is the start of the NCAA basketball tournament, March Madness, as we call it. And for a kid growing up playing ball in America, this is about as good as it gets. So this is a very exciting time for the only person in the room who cares, I think. But there we are. Now, as I said, we've got a full event for you coming up over the next little bit. We've got leading experts in the field, colleagues from business in the community, chief executives and business leaders who are living this agenda on the sharp end. And what we hope happens over the next couple of days is that you meet new people, you hear new ideas, you're challenged in different ways, but you also come away with both inspirational and practical solutions to the things that we're all wrestling with. This is a challenge, we know that. The themes that are going to run through all that happens over the next couple of days are collaboration and leadership. Very easy things to say, very difficult things to actually put into practice, as we all know only too well. We've got some new research that's coming out, and I think which will have some relevance to all of you as well. Two events that are happening this evening, sort of fringe events to this thing. We've got the Employers Forum on Reducing Reoffending, so we've got Ken Clark and others joining us, another 100 or so who will gather for that event. Lights are going out. And then also the launch of our Corporate Responsibility Index results for anyone who would like to attend either of those events. They're in this facility here, and then we have the private viewing of the event downstairs as well that we hope you all take some time to visit. Now, as many of you have heard me say before, I've spent most of my working life sitting in your seats, running global companies, trying to bring this agenda to life. And it isn't easy, I know that, particularly in a challenging environment, and things are still challenging out there for many companies. But what we all know is that we as businesses have an incredibly important role to play, perhaps more important than ever with what's happening. The economic, the political, the social tensions that we've been living through perhaps are easing a bit, but it's still difficult out there. We know that, and probably is going to stay that way for a while. The media continues to be full of stories about executive pay, about the fair payment of tax, things that you will all be challenged on and be thinking about yourselves, but also the increasing gap between rich and poor, and the opportunity and perhaps lack of opportunity that so many of our communities face. And how do we create that equality of opportunity, and how does that run through the work that we all do here? The core question, of course, that we keep asking ourselves is, can you create value in your organization by living your values? Well, the answer to that is yes. Probably I'm preaching to the choir here, but we want to make sure that we do everything we can collectively to equip one another with the tools to make that case back at the ranch when we go back. This is the 30th anniversary of Business in the Community, hard to believe. And this is a period for us of action, not reflection. There are so many things going on out there, as you know. Our agenda, in its simplest sense, is how do we make being a responsible organization easier and more straightforward. It is not just about how you spend your profits, as you well know. It is about how you make your profits, how in the process you treat the planet, you manage your supply chain, which is global, by the way. Everyone in this room has a global supply chain. How you create those inclusive, healthy, diverse, engaged workforces, so important at a time like this. And how do you engage in the communities in which you live and work, particularly around the areas of education, employment, enterprise, and culture. And all of those things will be unpicked and teased out over the next couple of days, and we hope in a very interesting and interactive way. We don't want this to be a one-way travel. We want you to feel like you're part of this dialogue. We want to hear from you in various ways, and there'll be plenty of opportunities for others to participate as we do that. We were chatting a little bit this morning about how the overall movement of business in the community is doing, and we're doing well, thank you. Thanks to the people in this room and so many others. What we're finding, notwithstanding some of the economic and political uncertainty that is out there, is companies are more engaged on this agenda than ever. So our job is to continue that momentum. What we hear from our member companies is that almost everyone says we're up for doing more. We're up for being more creative and doing things differently. But it is also complicated. We are facing all of these conflicting priorities. Our shareholders don't always get it. And we are getting fatigued with all the new initiatives and ideas that come up. So can't we find the things that work, bring them to scale, replicate? We're going to be hearing from some incredibly powerful and important brands in a moment. Part of the reason of their success is they find the things that work and they do it in other places. We hope that we can begin to instill some of that with us today. We had, again in North London, just up the street at the Roundhouse, the Prime Minister and the Prince of Wales 2 weeks ago, talking about the role that business plays in society and the importance of that role. The Prince and his passion on community engagement and what we should do as leaders and as citizens and as human beings. The Prime Minister making a very compelling case. He arrived by underground, by the way. It would have been interesting if the trains were down on that day. About the role of business and the power of business, and his getting fed up, like we all are, with the endless business bashing that's going on out there. So what we hope we are about in the next couple of days is celebrating what works, challenging the issues that we have to face, and equipping all of us with the practical tools to make a difference. But anyway, enough from me. You'll hear more of me later. We're going to bring our panel up here in a moment. But first, it is my great pleasure to invite to the stage our primary sponsors of today's event, the Hitachi Group, and we've got Hans Dames, who is going to share with us in a moment, but first, a short video. So.
Our founder, 100 years ago, first defined the philosophy of the company as being that technology should meet the needs of the community.
Hitachi is delighted to be the sponsor of this Responsible Business Convention because it gives us the opportunity to directly engage with our stakeholders.
It's a really great opportunity for Hitachi to support other businesses. They're here to learn how to operate more responsibly and more sustainably, and this will then benefit society and the environment.
How can we get organizations thinking quite differently about sustainability not being a risk or a regulatory item, but actually something that is really quite dynamic and transformational for their business?
Our big idea is to gear our growth to meeting the desire of customers and society to promote sustainable development.